Hey guys, Dave with Moneyology here. Hope everyone is having a great weekend. This is September 30th, 2018, and this is the uranium sector review. These uranium videos have gotten a lot of following and support, and due to the popular demand, I want to make these a little bit more often, especially given what's taking place in the sector. For those of you new to our videos, these videos are all from a weekly standpoint, and these are all based on technical analysis. I'm not doing fundamental analysis on these individual companies. So prior to investing, please make sure you do your own due diligence and find the companies that you want to invest in based on your own time frame. And also make sure that you invest in a very diversified manner and don't put all your eggs in one basket. With that being said, let's take a look at what's taking place in the sector. As you'll see, we're seeing a lot of multi-month, multi-year breakouts, and something is definitely fundamentally taking place in the sector, and now is a very fascinating time to consider playing this space. So starting with API.CA Energy, this list is in alphabetical order. I want to point out that after multi-year consolidation, we're starting to break out here. This is a stock that, not knowing anything about its fundamentals based on the chart alone, its accumulation right now, this is a stock that can really double if it breaks out of that 30-cent range. It could not necessarily double right away, but 46.50 is definitely an area where we can rally to in a couple of days. Now, one point I will say, one of the fundamental approaches in my charting is where there is a previous breakdown ultimately serves as very strong resistance based on momentum. So last time we broke down was right around here in RSI, and so we're approaching that area once again, and I believe that this may experience some resistance before breaking higher. So if this 69.70 level cannot break this time around, we might see a pullback, so keep that in mind. But if it does break, expect to see a very sharp move in the not too distant future, in addition to the gains that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Cameco Corp, this is the major player in this space, and look at the massive move we had last week. 15% move, found support here just as we had expected. Previous areas of support, this is when we last broke out right over here, RSI, notice, and that's where when we broke out, there's no surprise that this area was precisely going to be the area we'd find support, and sure enough, that's what happened. Right now we're finding resistance around the 200-week moving average, around 1160. We might consolidate here for a while, or we might just break out. For a longer term perspective, you want to see this break above 13. On the other hand, if this consolidates here for a while, that's not an unhealthy dynamic as well. You see the PPO starting to curl upward. It's a very positive sign, but ultimately, unless this breaks 13, this is just a short-term bounce. But I have a feeling that this is something much greater than that. Canalaska Uranium, CVVUF. This one's actually been on the weaker side of things, but I think that it's starting to make set up for a major move. It needs to break above 30 cents to make a run towards 40. If it breaks 40, I think the next target really is 60, followed by double that at 120. Could be a very strong move. It's finding resistance at this 50 RSI level here, but it's showing positive divergence where we're at 50 RSI with a much lower price point than previous points when that 50 RSI level was targeted. PPO is broken above 0, so that's a positive sign. So after multiple weeks of hammers here on the weekly, we had a pullback last week, healthy, and if it breaks above 30, look out above. Deep yellow, DYLLF, another one of those that's multi-year consolidation. Looks like it's poising to break above that 40-cent mark. On the one hand, on the weekly, it's showing a slight negative divergence to previous highs. On the other hand, it's looking at multiple time frames and the accumulation. This thing wants to rip higher, and if it does, there could be massive gains. But again, don't know the fundamentals. I read somewhere vaguely that this company might need money. Again, if that's the case, these companies will use these opportunities to dilute. So definitely want to be cognizant of these sort of events. But again, from a technical standpoint, this looks fantastic. Denison Mines, another leader in the space, one of the few mines in North America that's licensed to actually mine once actually uranium becomes profitable at the spot price. But look at this, multi-year breakout right here we just had this week. That's a massive development. Now, last time we had this scenario, we had this in 2017. We couldn't break above the 200-week moving average. We're right about here again. Let's see what happens if it breaks above 70 and can stay above this, perhaps consolidate above the 200-week moving average for a couple weeks. That'll be your sign that this is indeed not a fake out, but a start of a new uptrend, and one that can find this particular name in the double digits if things really take off into the bull market. Again, one thing I'll point out, the last time we broke down right about here was around that 70 level. We're right at that point right now. So if we can't break above that, we will pull back. But again, this area is the key one to watch. Encore Energy looks like it's getting set for a break above that 15-cent mark, and if it does, it could go much higher. I don't know the fundamentals, but a breakout above 15 would be a perfect time to get in, and with a stop loss shortly just under that 200-week moving average at 11 cents. But look at the accumulation. Beautiful pattern here. Energy Fuels, UUUU, is another one that's looks like it wants to break above the 200. Keep an eye out on this negative divergence right now. We're close to a double top, but momentum is not catching up to previous breakout, which tells me that if this can't break above that $4 mark and make a run towards 5, we might ultimately pull back some, possibly to test that 50 EMA around 233. PPO's kind of fallen back here a little bit, but it's very possible we break out above this 200 EMA at 382 this week, and if that's the case, that's your buy signal to go higher to move towards 5, and it can happen very quickly if it does that. Fission Uranium, FCUUF, another one similar to Denison, 2-year consolidation. If this breaks above 70, and it looks like with it's peaking above that 50 RSI, it's starting to make a move higher. I think we'll see 60 this week, and if it breaks above 70, which it's going to target if it breaks 60, PPO is above 0 here. Then you're talking possibly a move towards 90 cents, possibly move towards about that 110 area. A lot of upside here, a lot of fundamental upside. We'll see what happens. Forest Metals, FSY.TO, another one that's really starting to consolidate here. Had multi-weeks above the 200-week moving average at 25. It's going to break higher very soon, it looks like. And if it does, this can move to 36. Can move to 60. This is a multi-bagger just on a technical standpoint. It's this beautiful cup and handle. Another one that's starting to look like a cup and handle. And again, one area I'll point out: possible negative divergence between this high and where we are right now. But again, you have to look at this in a multi-time frame analysis. And from what I see, I'm seeing that the probability is higher than 75% that this does break higher here. This is the global uranium ETF from a daily perspective. You see here it's struggling, 1350 area, but it's look at this positive divergence here. We're at 66 on the RSI when we're at 1331. When we were at 1344, we were much lower on the RSI. That suggests that we are indeed going to move higher on the URA, possibly make a run towards that 1450 area sooner rather than later. A couple more charts here. This is the URA from a monthly perspective. Notice this hammer pattern so far this month. If we can break above this middle Bollinger Band at 1344 on a monthly close, and I think tomorrow's the last day in the month, so it should be interesting to see how that's going to look. If we can break out above that, and it looks like we might make a run towards 20 in the coming months. GVXXF Uranium, this is one I've been pointing out, one that had not been breaking out, but look at this. It was consolidating, compressing like a coil, and then finally broke out of this pennant pattern and on very strong volume. This is going to hit 20 cents this week very likely. If it breaks 20, 35 cents is the next target. PPO just above 0 now, and I like this name a lot right now based on the technical pattern. Laramide Resources, another one, similar pattern. broke out right here a couple weeks ago. Volume consistently getting higher. Looks like the traders are coming in right now. I think the next target above 40 is 60 cents, and I think it's going to get there. You've got positive divergence right now, and a lot of upside ahead for laramide. Next Gen Energy, NXC, multi-year consolidation right now, and it's above the 50 RSI. I think this one's setting itself off for a major run towards 3. Again, once 3 is broken to the upside, that's when you're going to see significant upside in one of the best fundamental plays in the sector. Sky Harbor, another great fundamental resource based on my research, consolidating multi-year, and now it's finally starting to break out. And it's kind of this rounded bottom. You've got the 200 and the 50-week moving averages beneath this acting as support. The next logical target is this 55 area. But again, keep an eye for a possible pullback, because we're right at that point where resistance of the previous breakdown right over here at RSI at around that 69.70 level. So that is going to serve as strong resistance. If we break through that, 55 is going to be here before you blink. Your energy URG, this one's been consolidating for a while. Look for a break above 90 soon. If it does, that's your signal to go long this particular name. UEC, another major player in the space. It's been consolidating above the 50 RSI zone. Very positive place to consolidate above the 50 and the 200-week moving averages with accumulation. I think this is going to see $2 shortly. And once that breaks, that's really a big run towards 3. Now let's take a look at URA from an hourly perspective. So from an hourly perspective, we're seeing some signs that we might possibly pull back some right now. We've got the PPO below 0. We've got this massive gap up. This is tied largely to Cameco. I think that this might want to pull back towards 13 rather, as you see this negative divergence, and it wants to move lower. So maybe perhaps we start the next week with a dip towards 13, a good opportunity to add or potentially initiate position. Now let's look at the same chart from a weekly standpoint. Again, we're right above the 50-week moving average, 1326. A lot of signs point to a breakout right now, but again, when this is so obvious, I think a lot of times you've got the amateurs really starting to pile in, and that's when we start, the professionals start shorting or selling some of their positions that were bought previously at lower prices. So keep an eye out for that. It's possible that we might see a short-term pullback, but from a longer-term time frame, this is going to see 16 sooner rather than later, and like I said, so we might go to $13 back to 15, back to 14, all the way to 16. I want to see 16 broken to the upside to confirm the longer-term bullish uptrend. Finally, Western Uranium Corp. You know what? This chart just speaks for itself. Once it broke out of this 50-week moving average, boom, it just took off. This is largely a traders really piling in right now, but there might be some fundamental story behind this. But bottom line is this one is I called this basically that we'd see 220, and sure enough, that's exactly where we hit. We see positive money flow, huge volume, and huge momentum divergence, positive momentum divergence. So while this might pull back, I think the downside here is 120, and the upside, if it breaks 220, is much, much higher. It looks like a fundamental story here is very positive. But again, I haven't done the due diligence. Make sure you do your own research on these names. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Best of luck. I know a lot of y'all have struggled in this space for many, many years. Those of you who are just entering the space are very, very lucky. And I wish you the best of luck in your trading and your investing, and hopefully you'll see some sizable returns in the not too distant future. Would appreciate your support on StockTwits, Twitter, and please do subscribe to our videos on YouTube, and feel free to continue leaving your comments in the comment section. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a great week. Bye now.